We had been talking about, simple inheritance, Mendelian genetics, just the very basics of dominant and recessive. But there are more complex patterns of inheritance, some which we need to talk about in eighth grade, and then some that you'll get to in 10th grade. So, simple inheritance, that's just that, there's a dominant allele and a recessive allele. Like, purple's dominant over white flowers. If you're heterozygous, then you have that dominant trait. It always masks the recessive trait. The only way you you get to see the recessive trait is if you get two of the recessive genes. Examples of Mendelian traits in humans, there are a lot of them, but most of them are not things that you can see. But a few that, you could be well known to you would be albinism, if you're albino. Hemophilia is where you bleed. If you cut, you don't really make a clotting factor and you can bleed very easily. Shortness of your fingers or toes, color blindness, wet or dry earwax. Most people have wet earwax unless you're of Asian descent. But those are examples of simple dominant and recessive. Most other human traits are more complex inheritance. Because most traits involve more than one gene. Scientists realized that long after Mendel's peas, they realized that in a lot of animals, including humans, that the pattern's a bit more complicated, like human blood type. You have your A, B, or O blood system, but then you also have other factors on there. Is it positive? Is it negative? Do you have the rhesus factor? Tons of factor. Blood type, very complicated. There's hemophilia, which would be something, that is X-linked. So it goes through the maternal line. So sometimes, those genes can affect women or men more because they are located on the X or Y chromosome. You also have codominance here with this roan-colored horse, where the neither one's dominant, and you get to see the brown and the white. So polygenetic inheritance involves two or more genes. This would be something, where there's a wide range of ways you can look, like skin color. Human skin color is governed by 3 different genes. So the genotype would look something like this: A, B, C, and you got 2 of each. So height's polygenic. There's many phenotypes. Anytime it's a trait where, you can have this bell-shaped curve where you got the tallest people on Earth at one end and the shortest people on the other end, and, an average height, that's going to be polygenic. Right, so that's going to be the average height, which is like, I don't know, for girls, 5'4", guys, 5'9". Multiple alleles too, you can have it where it's like dominant and recessive, but then have like a hierarchy where some things are like the most dominant, some things are the most recessive. So multiple alleles, for a good example, this would be human blood type. There is 3 alleles for blood type, A, B, or O. So, and then there's an order. A and B are equally dominant to each other, and O is recessive to everything. So we'll get to that blood type again in a second. Here's an example. Bunny fur. So the wild type brown, that is the most dominant fur pattern. So brown's there, you're going to have a brown bunny. Then you have chinchilla, which is the second most dominant. And then you have Himalayan, and then you have albino. So in order to get a chinchilla, you can't have any of the wild type fur. But you can have, chinchilla and Himalayan, and then that chinchilla will dominate, and you'll have a hidden Himalayan gene. To have a Himalayan bunny, you can have to have that, the Himalayan, the H. And then the other allele could be albino or Himalayan. And then to get an albino bunny, you have to have 2 lowercase c's with no little letters next to them. And that's going to get you the most recessive. So there's like a hierarchy for multiple alleles. We can try it with this one. Let's say Himalayan rabbit who has the albino gene. So they are C with the little H and then just the C for albino. They're mated to a chinchillan rabbit who has the Himalayan gene, which is CCH and the CH there. And we can see what the phenotypes would be. We can do our little Punnett square. So this first one is CCH, CH. So that one's chinchillan and Himalayan, but it's going to look chinchilla because chinchilla is the second most dominant. And this one just has H's, it's Himalayan. Then we have this one over here, which is chinchillan, but it's hiding an albino gene. And then here we have a Himalayan that's hiding the albino gene. So 50-50 chinchilla and Himalayan. But half of those are going to be hiding the albino gene. So with simple inheritance, that's where one's completely dominant and the other one's completely recessive. There's also incomplete dominance and codominance. Incomplete dominance, neither one's dominant. So you get this third phenotype, which is kind of an intermediary in between. So red and yellow, you'll get orange. It's not mixing like paint because, they're alleles. They're located on chromosomes. They don't like mix together. But they code for amount of protein production, and this makes enough protein of each that you see kind of an in-between color. Codominance, they're both dominant, and you get a third phenotype, but it's a mix. So you have like red and yellow, they'll have their own each little spots. So here's incomplete dominance. 4 o'clock flower, they're called that because they like to open up around 4 o'clock. But you have red and you have white. And when you put them together, you will get pink. It makes, just enough of each that you see both phenotypes. Another example, these pretty little birdies. So you can have, sky blue and mauve will get you cobalt, kind of a richer blue color. And then these parakeets. Codominance, they're both expressed. So they're like both dominant, codominant. Right, here's fuchsia, pretty flower. You got your, fuchsia colored. This is a camellia. And then you get your blend here. All right, you see flowers like this. You can go to the greenhouse right now and see flowers like this. With snapdragons, we gotta decide is that, incomplete dominance or codominance. So incomplete is when there's, kind of a blend. So that's incomplete. Roan cattle, is that incomplete or co? Well, that's codominance because you see the spots of red and white cow. Here, hair texture, we've got curly and long. And then is there a child a mix of both, incomplete? Or is it codominance? Here it's incomplete. And the checkered chicken. All right, you got black chicken, white chicken, checkered chicken. Codominance. Here, back to that ABO blood system. So A and B are codominant. So if one of your parents gives the A, the other one gives the B, you'll have type AB because they're codominant to each other. If one parent is A and the other parent is O, you're going to be type A because A is dominant over O. Yes, you'll be hiding the O, but you'll be type A. If your parent is, one's a B and the other one's an O, you'll be type B. You'll be still hiding the O. And then if you get 2 copies of the recessive O's, then you'll be type O. So, we got type A, type B, type AB because they're codominant, and then type O. And if you're type O, you're the universal donor. You can give blood to anybody. Because you don't have the antigens. And the antigens are what make it so like that the blood can't mix. So, type A people, they can't get type B blood because they have these antigens. They don't really work well with each other. But type O doesn't have any of those antigens, so it can give blood to anybody. A and B is the universal recipient because it has both A and B antigens. So you can just get anybody's blood. That's nice. I actually have no idea what blood type I have. Maybe you know what type you have. Type O, the most common. A and B is the least common. You can try this out. This has to do, the little I is the symbol for antigens and antibodies, but we can try this one. A mother with type O blood gives birth to a baby. The father is type AB blood. What are the possible blood types the baby could have? So since we know she's type O, that's recessive. We know she's 2 O's. She's just going to be II. See, if you look over the chart, II is the homozygous recessive type O blood. And then the dad is A and B, which is co-dominant. You can put those in. So the baby has a 50% chance of being type A. They're going to be hiding that O. And a 50% chance of being type B blood. There are also X-linked genes. So, you get, if you're a girl, you got an X from your mom and an X from your dad. If you're a boy, you get an X and a Y, the Y from your dad. Sometimes there are, genes on the X chromosome. There's a lot more. There's like 2,000. On the Y chromosome, there's only 70 genes. So the male chromosome doesn't do much besides make you a boy and give you what you need to produce sperm. So sperm determines the sex of a child. Eggs always provide an X chromosome, because that's all mom has to give. Males can give an X or Y. If the sperm has an X, you're a baby girl. If the sperm gives the Y, you're a baby boy. Some genes on the X chromosome can cause genetic disorders. They're almost always recessive, right? Because, if you're a girl, and you have something, your mom and your dad each give you an X. The X that doesn't have the bad gene, if it's a recessive gene, then you just don't have the disorder. X-linked recessive tend to be more common in males because a male doesn't have another X that can dominate over it. So here's some examples of X-linked disorders. Color blindness, much more common in male. Hemophilia, muscular dystrophy. So if it is X dominant, girls are more likely to get it. If it's X recessive, boys are more likely to give it, because for a recessive disease, you have to have 2 copies. But since males only get 1 X, that just makes them more likely to have it anyway, right? Because in this case, they have it recessive and they only actually have 1 copy of it, but they still get it. You can try with these numbers here and see if you've inherited color blindness. Can you see all of them? There's, red, green, blue, yellow. There's different kinds of color blindness. You can see all these. X-linked genes are not always genetic disorders. Calico cats, for example, this pretty cat color has to do with, girls have 2 X's, but for every gene, they can't express both at the same time because that's like too much expression. So what happens for every girl is one of the X's coils up and doesn't get expressed, and it just happens randomly. So the orange pattern is when the black coils up, it doesn't get expressed. And the black spots are where the orange coils up, it doesn't get expressed. And this is actually true for every female gene. It's called lionization. Genetics is like a fascinating topic. I really wish we were at school to spend more time to talk about it. And really that's the end of that. So we've got codominance and incomplete dominance. Codominance is really our focus, is codominance here. So we'll do a little bit of practice with that. All right, so this is when you get to see both in like a speckled or spotted pattern.